We're here to protect you and the ones that you love. It's a good feeling to know that our efforts aren't going unnoticed.
It actually brought tears to my eyes to know that we have this support.
You're welcome. I must just say, you're welcome. It's stressful, but we're not going anywhere.
All right. Welcome to another edition of Bucknell Men's Tennis Through the Decades. Tonight we have the decade of the 1980s. We've got a great group joining head coach Bruce Myers and one of our current student athletes, Michael Owen. Michael is a sophomore from Folkestone in the United Kingdom, and we're excited to have Michael on the call. My name's Todd Newcomb, and I want to thank Geisinger as our sponsor for tonight's session. Geisinger has done a great job throughout the pandemic. And as always, they do a fantastic job day in and day out with our student athletes here at Bucknell. So thank you to Geisinger. Let me get right to it and introduce our guest, and then I'll turn the call over to Coach Myers. Our first guest from the class of 1987 is Michael Murphy. Mike was the team captain during the 1986-87 season. He won 54 combined singles and double matches with the Bison. He won 28 and 19 in singles play, winning 60% of his matches there. And he went 26, 23, and 1 in doubles play. Mike was the ECC champion at third singles in 1987. Our next guest from the class of 1987 as well, Scott Stieler. Scott was the team captain during both the 85, 86, and 86, 87 seasons. He won 48 combined singles and doubles matches with the Bison. He went 35 and 16 in singles play, winning 69% of his matches to rank 11th all-time on Bucknell's winning percentage list. He went 13, 15, and 1 in doubles play. And our next guest from the class of 1989 is Stephen Cottrell, team captain during both the 87-88 and 88-89 seasons. He won 69% of all his matches at Bucknell to rank 9th all-time. He went 36 and 18 in singles play, ranking 12th with a 67% win rate, and he went 31 and 12 in doubles play, ranking 5th all-time with a 72% win rate. The champion at 5th singles and also the 3rd doubles champion with partner Jim Greenhoe in 1987. Next guest from the class of 1990 is Ed Hess. Ed was team captain during the 89-90 season. He won 82% of all his matches at Bucknell to rank 4th all-time. He went 60 and 3 in singles play, ranking 2nd all-time with a 95% win rate. He went 41 and 19 in doubles play, ranking 7th all-time with a 68% win rate. He was the ECC champion at first singles in 1987, 1989, and 1990. He was also the ECC champion at first doubles with partner Jerome Charlier in both 1989 and 1990. He won the Bison Club Award at the Athletic Department Senior Awards Banquet, and Ed was inducted into the Bucknell Athletics Hall of Fame in 2003. So, Coach, we've got a great group representing the 80s. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Todd. And maybe a little special for you because you probably knew some of these guys back in the day when you were on campus. So it actually is a neat group because obviously one of you still lives in Lewisburg, and I cross paths whether on the tennis courts or the golf course. So it's nice to have Scott on the call. But before we get started with swapping stories, let me go around and ask each of you just a little background, where you are, life after Bucknell, where you live, what you do, kids, married, and everything like that. So we'll start with Michael Murphy. Mike, what's life after Bucknell been for you?
Sure, yeah. Boy, it's been a journey. Mostly residing in New Jersey after I came back from Bucknell, and started actually in the entertainment business. I went toward more of an entrepreneurial route in a family business, and ended up going into the training and development industry. And then for the last 22, 23 years almost, I've been working for a global leadership development company. Also had my own firm too in leadership consulting. So that sort of been a passion of mine too, so as an athlete, but also, took me into the business world as an executive leadership coach and consultant now to a lot of, the Fortune 500. So I'm having a lot of fun with it. I have 3 children, Megan, who's 25, Amanda's 22, and Ryan's 19. Ryan's at Providence College. Amanda's studying nutrition and wellness, which I try to take her tips all the time when I can. She's down at Rowan University, and my daughter is actually teaching remotely here as well. So it's been a lot of fun, and it's amazing how the years have gone by. Really.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Next,
Yeah.
we'll go to someone I know a little bit about, but Scott Stieler, tell us what's been going on with you after Bucknell.
Well, I've continued a lot of tennis play. Actually, Mike and I played on a New Jersey team for a number of years, and so reunited our college doubles team and had a lot of fun with that. I was in publishing and electronic information services for most of my career. Lived in the New York area and then in Europe for a while. And but on the side was always investing in real estate in Lewisburg. So kind of after 9/11, decided to make a move back to Lewisburg. Picked up some more properties from a trustee who held kind of a portfolio here. So I've been managing this small real estate portfolio and have a few other small businesses as well. And I've been playing a lot of tennis and golf. Have 3 kids, wonderful kids who are basically on their own right now, 29, 26, and 23. And they're doing well. And my wife, Jenny, and I have been married for 34 years and enjoying life in Lewisburg.
How about a free plug for the restaurant?
Yep. One of our businesses is called Brasserie Louis. It's a restaurant on Market Street in Lewisburg. We have a really excellent kitchen, and right now it's going through hard times, but when things pick up and if you return to campus, stop in.
Thank you, Scott. Next, we'll go to Stephen, who is actually in Australia, a day ahead of us, but what have you been doing since graduation?
Wow, it's amazing how the years fly by. But after graduation, I ended up going into IT, information technology, which I'm in now. And it was kind of fun in 2000, about 11 years after I graduated. I moved down to Austin, Texas, got to see Ed, hang out with Ed Hess. It was really cool. It was like we were still in college, like we never left. I recruited. I was playing on the USTA circuit on the the competitive league. I think it was like a 5.0 league or something. And I recruited Ed for the biggest match of the year. I had him. He drove up from Houston, stayed overnight at my place, and he was playing this guy at number 1 who hadn't lost in 2 years. And Ed ended up beating him 6-2, 6-3. And I ended up winning at number 2. My singles match beat this guy. They were the national champs, reigning national champs. And after we beat them, they ended up protesting because we ended up winning the doubles like 7-6 in the third. We beat them 3-2. And they ended up protesting the match. And I said, what? So your number 1 guy can't be beat by somebody that's better? Because Ed beat him. So that was great. But it was a lot of fun to knock them off their perch. But then I came out to Australia to work, and I've been out here. I got 3 beautiful girls. I never thought I'd have 3 girls because I was one of 3 boys growing up. So it was a definite change for me, but love it. They're not into tennis, unfortunately. They're doing their own thing. One's a singer, one's into basketball. I coach her basketball team. The other one's into just getting hurt. She runs into things. She's like 4. So I've got 2 teenagers and a 4-year-old, so it keeps me busy. I still play tennis once a week. Love the sport. I play more now. I played a bunch of comps. I won a couple of club championships after Bucknell. So I stayed with it. Still can hit a ball, pretty good ball, try to stay fit, but I just play for fun now, just to have a hit and stay fit, right? Done the competition things and it's still in competitive, still hate to lose, but I think my daughter's faster than me now, so that's tough to swallow. Anyways.
There you go. Thanks, Stephen.
Yeah.
All right, Coach, I'm going to jump in and introduce our new guest that just arrived, despite the fact that he's a Flyers fan and I'm an Islanders fan. But joining us, Rock from the class of 1985. He was a team captain during the 84-85 season, and he won 45 combined singles and double matches with the Bison. He won 20 singles matches, and 25 of those matches were double matches. He was the ECC champion at first doubles with partner Steve Haas in 1983. So welcome to Peter. Coach, I'll turn it back to you, and you might want to ask him that first question.
I will. Peter, welcome. Peter's actually, anytime we're in anywhere around Philadelphia, whether it's Temple or Penn or Drexel, he always shows up at our matches, which is outstanding to see. Peter being from Westchester, I love the Flyers shirt, sweatshirt as well. But a quick question for you before we get rolling. Give me the Peter Rock experience, life after Bucknell. So what have you been up to?
Oh my goodness. Well, let's see. I mean, I hopped to New York with a bunch of Bucknellians, which was effectively the end of tennis playing for me for a while. And then when I got back down to the Philadelphia area, I started playing. In fact, I've had the pleasure in the last 5 years of playing with both Scott. I think Scott, last time we played at Marion Cricket on the, we got a chance to play. So it was great. And Murph tried to put a ball through me at Bucknell. I think the last time we played, I was, I had Zimmer on my team. I forget who are you playing with, Murph? I can't remember.
I'm trying to remember. I think
It was
Scott and I
one of the
played.
other captains. Yeah.
Scott and I think.
Yeah. So no, yeah. And obviously my former doubles partner, Mr. Haas, I've played with on a couple of occasions. Though I think he's on the IR like I am these days. So,
Yes.
so I'm working I've been an attorney since '91. I'm with DeLaga which is a financial services company, and I'm their global commercial legal counsel, I guess is the nice way to describe it. I'm still avidly playing tennis, although I'm about to have shoulder surgery next month and be in rehab for a while. So, and I've stayed close to tennis and played at a club level for a while now, but I've stopped. I've played for a couple of club championships, but I've stopped competing in tournaments and interclub because I'm just too lazy to drive an hour and a half to play for an hour. What can I tell you? So I've got three like you, Steve, older boy who's in business school now, who actually played tennis. And then my girls who, like yours, completely and utterly refuse to practically pick up a racket these days. So.
Outstanding. And I've seen recent pictures that you played with a couple of recent graduates like Max Kane and Ben Gerber, I think not too long ago. So the shoulder must have been okay for a little while. So
yeah, no, the shoulder was fine until August. And no, so I've been playing with Max, and I've actually been hitting with Ira Brownstein, another player who I actually got to work with in the early twos. And yeah, I seek out the alums. I know we've been trying to get together with some other alums locally periodically. So I've invited a bunch of guys out to the club to hit. And you, Coach, I've been trying to get you out, trying to get you out on the grass. I might have some advantage due to, I know, the lousy conditions on court number 4. So.
There you go. There you go. Thanks, Peter. Now we'll go to Ed. Ed, life after Bucknell for you. Tell us about it.
Sure. So I graduated with a degree in accounting from Bucknell, and I went to New York for 3 or 4 years with one of the big 6, with Price Waterhouse back then. I don't even know if they're still one of the big 6 or big 4. But after 4 years, had kind of enough of the Northeast, even though I loved my time up there and I wanted to get back down to my roots in Texas. So went to grad school at University of Texas for business. And then after that, went into banking. But for the most part, I've been working in the electricity industry. I work for a company called Calpine Energy. They own some plants up in the Northeast as well. I'm on the retail side of that business, selling to commercial and industrial customers. But I've been there probably for the last 15, 16 years. And my wife, Stephanie, and I have 2 kids. We've been married for 22 years now. I have a boy and a girl. One's a senior in high school right now, going through the college search process, and the other one's right behind him, a junior. And they both play tennis. So what I do play, I play with them, and it's nice seeing myself continue to deteriorate and them get better and better to the point where they're beating me. So I'm not sure if they would have played if it wasn't for me, but I've dragged them out there, and I think actually they kind of like it now. So I'm glad I got them involved.
That's awesome.
That's about it.
Great. So we'll go back around with my second question. And obviously recruiting nowadays is lots of videos, lots of results and things like that. But that's the benefit of having the internet, so give me the background of how you ended up at Bucknell. What was the process and how you ultimately selected Bucknell? So we'll go back around and we'll start with Mike Murphy.
Yeah, it's wow, that takes you back, right? To think about the whole process there. I had started tennis kind of late, actually. I didn't start playing in high school till sophomore year. I was at a school that didn't have a tennis program, so I just started really junior year officially in high school, and I was very committed to it though. I just love tennis. All of a sudden, I was always more like a baseball player, football. And then I decided that I was going to go into tennis. So at that point, I really focused a lot. I ended up playing for Don Bosco Prep up in North Jersey, and I ended up playing number 1 for them. And then actually, I was going to go to Rutgers. I was recruited to go to Rutgers. I was supposed to go there until the very last second. I got something from Bucknell, and it was the better school for me, and I ended up coming to Bucknell. So it was always, some of you may not know that, but I was this close to, they were not wanting me to make the changeover. And my father did something magically to allow me to continue to go forward there. But that was my recruiting process. I remember coming in, and I remember Pete very much. And Pete was always competitive, but also always, kind of compassionate. He kind of took you under his wing. And I do remember that, Pete. And you were always very courteous and made me feel comfortable coming on the team. And as a freshman, I came in, I think, at number 2 or something like that, or 3, whatever. But it was kind of like that thing that you're coming into a new place and it's all new people, and so I had to get adjusted. I remember Pete being one of the people I always looked up to help me adjust as well, whether you knew that or not, Pete.
Rutgers lost, Murph. Rutgers lost.
Well, that was the funny thing. When we played Rutgers, I ended up, I remember those guys, and I ended up winning my match against Rutgers, and it was one of those honor things for me. It was like, I got to beat these guys now.
Yeah, exactly.
You beat them so badly they dropped their men's team, so that's great. So
no, I just had Ed Hest. We just got Ed Hest to come join us. The rest is history.
Let's go to Scott. Scott, how did you end up at Bucknell?
I'll be brief. We were just doing campus tours. The Bucknell campus tour really made an impression on me. I saw all the tennis courts, I guess. I really didn't have any contact with Coach Reynolds at all. I was a total walk-on. And then I remember I grew up with golden retrievers, and when we were doing the tour in the quad, a golden retriever was running around. So my mom was like, "This must be the place." So, my early decision.
Very scientific. I like it. Great. Steven, how did you end up at Bucknell University?
So I was I did pretty well in high school. I was in Connecticut, a small state, so it wasn't a tennis powerhouse or anything, but I was all state 4 years there for tennis. I played all sports, but I had the mentality of a football player, but I had the body of a tennis player. So I stuck with tennis. I was pretty small in high school, and I realized playing running back, it wasn't a long-term job that I could fulfill. And I was getting big trophies for tennis. So I was like, oh, this is fun. I'll keep going into tennis. So I kind of channeled in there. Then when I looked at schools, I was being recruited by like some Richmond and George Washington. Actually, Delaware offered me some financial aid, University of Delaware. That was kind of my school I wanted to beat, like Murph had with Rutgers. When we played Delaware, I got especially excited and usually did pretty well against them. But then my grandfather was the catcher of the baseball team, class of 1929 for Bucknell. He's from Muncie, Pennsylvania. And my mother was class of 58 for Bucknell. She was a Pi Phi. And my brother went there, and he was class of 83 and at Bucknell. And then my other brother went there for 1 year, partied too much, and ended up getting told to leave very politely. And I thought that would ruin it for me. But I went and interviewed with Coach Reynolds, and he was pretty interested in me, and then I just knew all along I was going to end up at Bucknell because of the family heritage for myself. So I kind of knew, no matter how much I thought I wanted to blaze my own trail, I kind of knew I would end up there, and it turned out to be a good school for me.
Awesome, thanks, Stephen. Mr. Peter Ockrock, how did you end up at Bucknell?
Well, I actually was trying to go where Ed Hess went. I was trying to go to the University of Texas at Austin, and my father told me after I got in, and I showed up at his then home office to ask for the check, and he said, absolutely not. You'll go away and never come back. At which point I got in the car and drove to Lafayette, Lehigh, Bucknell, and a couple of other schools. And actually, Bucknell for me was most impressive because it actually had indoor tennis courts, and I had played with Eric Simpson, who was a junior then and a senior. So I had familiarity with him. And Murph, you are being very kind. You guys, you and Scott were great teammates. It was really not at all difficult to hang out. I think one of the things we all know is that you could play tennis at Bucknell for 4 years and probably none of your friends have ever seen you play tennis or know that you're playing tennis unless somehow they capture you walking uphill late at night with tennis gear after you got back from Pittsburgh or one of the faraway places. It was a pleasure to have you guys as friends, but also as teammates. So yeah, I met Coach Reynolds up overlooking the indoor tennis courts. I had no idea he was the soccer coach. He never revealed any of that to me. And I think my most shocking moment was having to play onto the team as a freshman back in the day. I don't know if they do that anymore, Coach. I doubt it, but
No.
play on tournament. So I played some guys who could barely get a ball over the net. My first week at Bucknell, I went back and Jim Beneke was my classmate and co-captain. And I remember we finally played each other in the finals and I said to him, oh, thank God, at least we're going to get to play a match with somebody who could actually get the ball over the net. It was the only thing that didn't happen was nobody showed up in a gorilla suit to play. That was really my first round match.
Awesome. Thanks, Peter. Ed Hess, how did you end up at Bucknell University?
Sure. So I guess, I started playing tennis when I was taking it seriously, probably when I was about 10. And I did, I think I was ranked 14 in Texas in 12s and 13 and 14s. And then I got a little burned out and I didn't do too well in 16s, which is really, looking back on it, probably your most important year, because my second year in 18s, I would have been in college. And I was like 28 in the state there. And so I really, I knew I wanted to play in college. But at the same point, I wanted to go to the best school I could academically. So it kind of came down between Vanderbilt and Bucknell. And I met with Coach Reynolds and he was really nice. And I got a good feeling from him. And and the other important thing was my parents my dad had gotten transferred from Houston to New Jersey when I was a junior in high school. And I just finished out finishing high school in Houston with my mom. So he was already up there. My mom was moving up there. So I looked at some schools around that area and fell in love with Bucknell. Yeah, I mean, the change of seasons and the campus that you get, there aren't many campuses like that down here. There's a couple of small private schools in Texas, but most of them are the big public schools. And I just fell in love with the campus and the education. I mean, I thought it was a great fit for me, and I'm very happy with that decision. I couldn't imagine going anywhere else.
Awesome. Outstanding. Thanks, Ed. So I'm going to put you guys on the spot a little bit. So I need you guys to pick, pretty much see if you can pick one experience, one very memorable experience that happened to you as a member of as a student athlete in the Bucknell men's tennis team. So we'll go to Mike Murphy.
Yeah, when you think about memorable, and I have to say it was the spring break trip. That was.
Hold it. I didn't agree to an X-rated moment here with my friends.
Let go.
That was so much fun. It really took us, while we're all very competitive, we really bonded in a different way than, we're all working when you're at school, you're focusing on your studies and you're coming and going. And that was just a bonding opportunity for all of us. We had a great time. I even have, Steve was just showing pictures. I have a bunch of pictures I unearthed of all of you, here. And so I'm happy to share those at any point. But some of those were from spring break. And I remember that big honking van. The thing was as long as a van could be. I don't know. You could fit like 30 people in the van, it seemed like. And Coach Reynolds, I'm not sure he was the best driver, I do.
He was a pretty
but-
good driver.
Was he? All right.
As long as he was able to smoke and.
Right, there you go.
Window,
That's
he was
right.
good.
That's true. If he wasn't irritable and he could smoke, it'd be okay. But I love Coach Reynolds. He was really cool. And but spring break was great. And the reason why I also speak about Coach Reynolds, he did let us have some fun, enjoy ourselves, maybe a little bit too much at times. I remember some nights where he had to corral us to get us probably back on track. But and Steve and Jim Greenhoe, they were just little angels and saints out there in spring break as well. So without getting into many details, it was just a heck of a lot of fun where we played some great schools. I remember playing doubles with Scott. But like I said, it was fun. And all kidding aside, it was just a fun time to get to know everybody. I remember going to this little dance club, and we had to all just have a great time together and bond. And I think that bond, kind of started something with all of us. So I know that might be an unusual memory for tennis years, but that's what stuck out for me as something kind of special.
It's funny because we've done the obviously 70s, 80s, and then the 90s, and that's always been it's the spring break trips that is always the top of the list. And Michael Owen, you get no ideas. You play tennis on spring break and you go to your room. That's it.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
exactly.
Scott Stieler, spring break memories, or your most memorable as a member on Bucknell as a student athlete.
Sure. I mean, I agree with Mike. Spring break was always so much fun. But generally, I guess I'd say I liked traveling with the team. So, I mean, even going to some of the away matches in the van with the coach driving, playing a match, watching Pete throw his racket over the fence.
I was good at that.
Times like that. Being starving on the way home and, getting our $5 to go and stand in line at Burger King or McDonald's and get a healthy meal. But that was just a lot of fun. We'd clown around after the match, and it just was fun to be part of the team. Playing tennis is kind of an individual sport, so having the team interaction really made it really more fun.
Awesome. Steven, most memorable experience as a student athlete.
I would say the friendships that we had, and kind of what Michael and Scott touched upon. We were all so competitive as individuals. Probably the 8 most competitive guys on campus at the time, happened to be on the tennis team because it is an individual sport. But the bond that we all had was just amazing. And the support for each other. I felt like we were going to war each week. We'd go out with an opponent, and there's no better group of guys I wanted to go to battle with than the guys that were on that team. Just awesome guys, and have the utmost respect for them, and wanted nothing but the best success for them as well. I mean, I always like to share this photo, and I think that turned into the success that we had, right? I always wanted to be part of a championship, and we were able to do that with this group of guys, which is amazing. On the left is the 87 team that we broke through. We were my first freshman year, we were second, and we broke through and won it in 87. And then in 89, we swept all the singles and were on all 3 doubles finals and won it on our home campus, the East Coast Conference Championships. So we're able to win 2 titles in my 4 years there. And I won 3 individual titles, but the team came first. I mean, I would throw away any individual titles for one team victory with the guys. That to me was most important thing. And, I've seen a lot of these guys on this call to this day, and, love them like they're my brother and do anything for them as they all know.
Thanks, Stephen. That's outstanding. And I think in thinking about it, the 91 team was they won the very first Patriot League title. So you guys kind of laid the groundwork for that and the foundations, which is actually we had Drew Cantor last night.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Todd, but I think he got teary-eyed in describing clinching the match that won the Patriot League title. So that was outstanding. So
Drew was on our 89 team, and it started with guys like Pete on the call and Murph and Stieler, creating that foundation, and we just picked up the baton, and then Ed coming in, just really helped us get to that next level.
That's great. Mr. Ockrock, most memorable experience as a student athlete at Bucknell.
Wow, there's a lot that flood back, because I can think about funny stuff like Scott's describing, and the goofiness in the van, and being a freshman and having the McDonald's idiot who had to fill out the map to try and win us $500 to winning the championship with Hazy. And even I can remember my last ECC match like it was yesterday. Nicky and I were the #1 seeds in doubles in the ECC championship, and these two guys just absolutely played out of their minds against us. And I just remember being completely distraught that I wasn't able to win a championship with Jim, who was a great friend and a great colleague to play with. So, and again, obviously the goofiness that happens when you make friends with somebody, when you're with them, all the hours that you're with them, in a van, hanging out at some really shoddy hotel periodically. No, just the friendships are what you remember. I miss it. It's like when we're all back together, just like we are now, feels like you're just snapping back in time. And for me, one of the special moments was actually getting to know the next generation of players accidentally through Ira. And then randomly years ago, the match was at Villanova. I happened to be driving home. I thought, I'm going to stop off and to meet the next generation of players, Zim and those guys, and get to know people like Michael. It's just been a pleasure to get to know the next generation. So
Awesome. That's outstanding. Ed Hess, most memorable experience as a student athlete on campus or off campus?
Yeah, I won't take too long because I think Steve kind of said exactly what I was going to say, and I think he said it very well. I mean, I it's not just one experience; it's just the whole camaraderie of the team. I mean, the best guys were on the tennis team, that hanging out with, and going spring break trips, just spending time. I mean, I came from Houston. I knew absolutely no one at Bucknell. I'm sure there were a lot of people in that situation, but just having the group of guys that we had every year I was there, from Scott and Mike being seniors. Unfortunately, I only got to play with them 1 year, but being with Cottrell and Greenhoe for 3 out of the 4 years. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better group of people. I mean, as you can tell from Steve on this call, I mean, he's such a competitor, him and Greenhoe on the doubles court. You did not want to deal with them, but after we played a match, we maybe had our arguments on the court, but we're best friends. And I know Steve would do anything for the team. I mean, he would back you up. As you can see, he's got a memory. He can remember things from like 20 years ago, what the score was, how many points you lost in a game. Just an incredible, I mean, people take an interest in what you're doing, and you take an interest in what they're doing, and forming the bonds that you form. I mean, unfortunately, we don't get to see each other much now, but I mean, those are the best 4 years when you can establish, relationships like that.
Just to add to that, I remember Ed's 3 losses. Jim Shepard was one from Townsend State. The other one was Per Esklin from Flagler College. And the third was from Bloomsburg, Mark Ballone. But he beat Ballone, he beat Shepard in other matches as well. So those were his 3 losses. I saw all 3 of those, and I saw his 60 victories in about 30 minutes to go with it.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Great teammate.
that's crazy.
That's outstanding. I'm going to turn it over for the next couple of questions to my super sophomore, Michael Owen. Michael.
Hello. So my first question for everyone is, having graduated Bucknell and with the kind of hindsight you have now, what would be your kind of #1 piece of advice that you would give to me or any other player on the team about the college tennis experience here at Bucknell? Let's start again with Mike.
I think one of the things I would encourage you to do is really, as you think about tennis, it's an individual sport, as Scott was saying. And so I think to the extent you can really find, what really motivates you, what are you most interested in, and where that passion lies, don't fight that, go with that, find a niche, whatever that may be in your life. And, the same passion you have for, tennis, if you can transfer that and figure out ways to think about that, and it can go a long way. There's a lot of people that make decisions in life because they think it's the best thing to do by someone else's standard, or a parent's standard, or, financially. I've never really personally done that as much. Trying to always balance like having the quality of life that I want, but also doing what I like to do. And so I always would encourage anybody to really find that true north a little bit for themselves, and might take a little time. You might have to ask a lot of questions of yourself. Have fun, but also think about what do I really want to, where are my greatest talents and my gifts?
Thank you. That's insightful. Same question for you, Scott, as well.
I'd say relative to tennis, just, stay positive, don't get down on yourself. I mean, it's a game, be the best player you can be, practice hard, and try to work on your weaknesses, all that kind of stuff. But, stay positive, enjoy the experience, no whining from the yacht. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks. Thank you. And yeah, Peter, what would you say?
Oh, yeah, well, I think you know from this call that the thing to do is to remember to cherish your moments. You've got great teammates. I've had the pleasure of meeting them. You have a international variety, which is very different from our experiences. I mean, you can put a pin in and circle a couple miles, and I have most of my teammates. Bucknell's a unique experience. You, as I said, you're going to feel very close to people. I would take advantage of it. And with respect to tennis, serve to the body a little more. I've seen you serve to the body a little more, first strike tennis, you'll be just fine.
Oh, we're in. Yeah. Thank you. Stephen.
Yeah, so I'd say two things come to mind. One is kind of what Mike was saying is take those battles that you have on the court. Those are that's the same attitude and determination you're going to need to get through life. It's going to be bumps on the road, whether it be through divorce or loss of loved ones. And if you can, take what you've learned, that fight, with you, it's going to serve you well later on in life. I look at my career, where I just finished #1 in the company for this past quarter, and I attribute that to, I just wanted it more than anybody else, so go for it, right? And that's one thing. And number two is, no one's talking about that individual shot that they hit on this call, right? They're talking about the relationships they formed. So I would encourage you to, the memories that you have, as Scott touched on, are going to be better, more important than any shot you're ever going to hit. So realize that you're a bit, you guys are bigger as a group than you are as an individual, and just keep in touch, I would say.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Lastly, Ed.
Yeah, I'll second that. Like we've all mentioned, relationships are key, and go through this experience. Depending on, I assume tennis is very important in your life, like it was to us when we played. We all knew we weren't going to do it for a living, but we sure wanted to do our best at it, while we could. And college years are great for that. Senior years, you got to start looking at internships and things like that and what you're going to do. But, use the time with your, build your game up with your teammates and be there for your teammates, just like I'm sure they'll be there for you. And, if you can afford to, use your summers to develop your game. I've looked at y'all's schedule. Y'all play a heck of a schedule these days versus, really what we played, and, the level of players that you have on your team. I don't even think I could make the team now if I'm looking at y'all's UTR.
I bet you could play right now, Ed.
And no, I don't think so. I think I'm an 8 UTR right now. They're 11s and 12s, but just to enjoy it and develop your game. You guys are all quality. Don't back away from any competition, because y'all can compete with anybody, and you're going to a good school, and I think you're in a great place. So just enjoy it.
Thank you. That's yeah. Thank you, everyone, for your question answers there. Sorry. And my second question relates more to after graduating. So what advice would you have about networking and finding the right job after graduation? Yeah, same again, Mike.
Yeah, sure, Michael. And I was obviously talking probably about both when we were talking about just the tennis, and how you can. And I still would say certainly to the extent you can tap your energy, right, and while you're there at Bucknell, and bring that to the court, is probably going to help you break through. But that, I think that's the thing is, if, as Steve was saying, if you can transfer that, and you can think about as you come out of college, I think one, set some goals and dream a little bit bigger. There's a lot of people that might tell you what you can and can't do, or what your potential may be, and no one really knows. Everybody's got an opinion, but really try to figure out what again is unique about what what you really have to bring to the table. And I would network to better understand how you can learn quicker. And when you come out of college, because a lot of people want to do it themselves. Now I mentioned I'm in the leadership business. We go to Harvard, Yale, all over the world for some of the world's best companies. And a lot of people are arrogant. They come out and they want to prove to themselves. They want to tell everybody what they do and how they do it. And I always encourage people to say, what, go out and find out. You don't know as much yet, so learn more. So what I would suggest you maybe think about doing is, hey, what are the areas you're most interested in? Find some people that are excellent in that category, in that industry, maybe the job type, and get a variety of people and talk to people, and don't let anybody else influence your opinion talk to a good number of people, and then find a few people who could be mentors, who would believe in you and your potential, because one mentor could mean a lot in your life. If someone who does believe in you and can see in you maybe what you can't even see in yourself. So I'd encourage you to be thinking about that if that helps.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. And Scott, how would you what would you say?
Well, I guess near term, I'd say it's hard to know what you want to do, at this time in your life, but you want to come up with some options that you want to pursue, and you want to be able to clearly articulate that, because then if people know what you want to do, people can help you. So if you know what you want to do, what industry and in what city or whatever, then people can legitimately help you. Maybe talk to someone, maybe get a job. But one thing I want to throw out is, wherever you land, think about using tennis to stand out. I was in a couple of large organizations, and once it was known that I was a tennis player, I ended up being able to play up with some people that I wouldn't normally have contact with, and forge some relationships that actually helped me advance in the companies. And it happened once kind of by luck. And then one of the other companies that I was with, I thought about it more and was able to use it to surprisingly stand out from some of the other people. So that may sound a little Machiavellian, but tennis can really have a positive impact.
Yeah,
career.
It does seem to be one of probably the number one networking sport, I would say. I mean, how would you guys agree?
That and pickleball now.
Pickleball, yeah.
Yeah.
Too easy. You got to wait till you're 70 to play pickle.
That's right.
And same question for you, Peter.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to take a little piece from my friends who I think we all know. I think one of the things that I often talk to people about is the partner and teamwork concept. The unique aspect of tennis, and I think Steve touched on this, is you're out there on your own, but you're still a part of a team. And that's very much an analogy for what you're going to go through at all levels of your career. I think you should tap into us. I've helped a number of tennis players who just, like Scott said, just reach out. We're happy to talk about it. We know people, we are here. So you should hammer this tennis network. We are ecstatic to help you out. It really is not a big deal for us, whether it's helping you turn corners on your CV, or, hey, here's somebody you might want to talk to in this place, whether it's New York or Houston or Australia or wherever it is that you want to get, or in the UK. I actually know people in your home country. There's prior tennis players whose parents are from the UK. I don't even know if you know that, but there's ways that we can help you that you probably might be a little bit too embarrassed to ask, but from our perspective, we're happy to give. So be a little selfish. And I think Scott's right. I actually got my second day at American Express out of undergrad. The assistant to the vice president saw tennis on my CV and ended up spending every weekend in Jersey City practically coaching him. So it does create some unique opportunities. But and the last thing I say is, on the tennis court, you have to trust your instincts about how you're going to play, and you're in that rhythm. Trust your more. It's more important in your first couple of years to learn. To Murph's point, it's really more important to learn than to go with a big company or to get the most paying job. It's the thing that's going to give you the best foundations. It's like a tennis game, right? If you don't have all the strokes and you don't have a good foundation, you're not going to be successful. It's critical to have your aspects covered, more importantly.
Thanks, Peter.
Get off the soapbox, sorry.
Oh yeah, so pretty much what everybody else has said. I think you've got. It sounds like you've got a very international flavor to your existing team, right? So you've got great locations. You've got incredible. They will have incredible backgrounds, right, as well. So they will be doing things that you'll be able to tap into, as well as look at the people on this call. Everybody on this call is successful, from Bruce, the coach at Bucknell, all the people that he knows, to Todd, to Ed in Houston. He's in, he's been in the oil and gas sector and utility sector for a while. I'm in IT. You've got Scott, an entrepreneur, three or four restaurants in Lewisburg alone. You got Michael, who's leadership. So, the kind of people you can tap into, as Pete said, and, is incredible, right? So, I would have loved to have had that. You're in a brotherhood now. We're all brothers, tennis brothers. Tap into it. We didn't have such a thing when I was, I kind of had to do it the hard way. When I graduated, we didn't really have this, right? We were kind of, but you've got this whole thing. Take advantage of it. I would encourage you.
Yeah. And finally, Ed.
Sure. I would, once again, everything everybody said is right on. The one thing I'd say is, whether I can come from my end because I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do right out of school. So, don't be afraid to dip your toes in. You're probably, your first job out of school is probably not what you're going to end up doing, unless you may know right away that you want to be a doctor or something, and you may end up doing that. But a lot of people, it won't be your career job for forever. You may end up doing a couple of different things before you finally find where you fit in. But what I'd say is, the thing with having your tennis commitments, it's a great starter. I mean, I don't think I didn't have any real job experience until my senior year when I did an internship, other than playing tennis every summer. And I was worried to death that I didn't have any job experience, but don't worry about that if that's your case, because I think tennis is what got me the internships that I got, along with the Bucknell education. But I would dip into internships. I remember, they had the January programs at Bucknell, and I had a 1-month internship with one of the accounting firms. And that went a world just to start seeing what the business world was like and seeing where I fit in. And so I would strongly recommend, senior year, maybe even junior year after summer, depending on your tennis commitments, start looking just for internships and use, like everyone says, networks, tennis people, the tennis community that's here, people at school. I know they had a great, outsourcing group when we were there, or not outsourcing, but career help. So just use all your contacts you can and try to dive in early and see where your interests lie.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. It's amazing to see just how integral tennis has been in all your answers. And I know me and my teammates are all very grateful for your input and to have this kind of network, and it's a fantastic community to be a part of. So thank you. I'll pass it back to Coach.
And Michael, what's your major, by the way?
Oh, I'm economics and double majoring with poli-sci as well. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's quite a set of majors there. That's great. Well, let us know if we could help you. As Pete said, happy to help and help you connect and think even about networking. Happy to do that. I know each of us would do that, and happy to spend a little time with you too if that would be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Michael, what's your position on the team?
So last year I started off in the fall. I don't know, lower down, like maybe 5.
It was terrible in the fall.
I didn't play too well in the fall. When the spring I was at 2 for singles and 1 doubles.
Wow.
Well done. Good job.
Here's another little interesting piece. Michael is American as you and I. He was born in Arizona. So don't let the accent fool you.
Wow.
Yeah. Born in Arizona.
That's a good one. That's a good accent to have at spring break, Michael.
Yeah. I was going to say that, but I'm like,
that was one of the tricks Steve used.
Yeah. Mine was a Russian accent. It didn't go over well, but Murph could dance.
No, I had to dance or talk, and Scott would just walk in the room and be like, "Yeah, I'm here."
Scott would show up, and all the rest of us had no chance. When Scott walked in the room, it was like we just put our hands down and threw in the white towel. We had no chance.
Yeah, it comes from my dad. He's fully Welsh. And when I was like 3 years old, we moved to the UK. So that's ever since.
Don't lose it, Michael.
I'm
Don't
trying
lose
my
it.
best.
Thanks, Michael. So my next question to you guys, and I'll preface it this way. I'll once again put you directly on the spot. Like, who was the teammate you respected and admired the most, and why? And before I ask, a certain Jim Greenhoe just chimed in, and his direct quote is, Michael Murphy was a great leader and all-around dude to us freshmen, so I vote for him. So 1 vote for Michael Murphy, right from Greenie. So, but we'll go to Michael Murphy. Who was the one teammate that you respected and admired the most, and why?
Well, that's a tough one because, you know, I think about each person and how they contributed in different ways. And but if I had to pick one, I would pick my partner, Scott, because Scott and I had this relationship where, you know, I was a little bit the wild man trying all these things, and I'd be, as Steven said, diving and this and that, and I'd be pushing to do things. I was, Scott had perspective. Scott would just kind of know how to manage things. He looked at the long term, and he would come into a match and he would just wear people down mentally. And I always admired Scott's, first of all, his ability to do that and just sort of outsmart people, outsmart people. He was kind of unflappable. You rarely saw Scott get really upset, and, you know, because everyone else was getting upset when they were playing him. So I always thought that was kind of interesting quality about how he handled things so smoothly. And also he's a great partner. And he, I think, modeled the kind of teamwork that, you know, relationship that I would like to see with, obviously, myself, but also with our teammates. And so to me, Scott meant a lot over the years. We stayed in touch. And so while I think everybody has really contributed and touched me, I think Scott, as my partner, obviously really made an impact on me, and I admire.
That's outstanding. Thanks, Mike. Scott, over to you. Tough question here.
Well, thanks, Mike. That was very nice of you. And I mean, I guess it's a mutual admiration society because Mike had so much heart. Okay, I mean, I think everybody would agree. Mike was a tough competitor, but, you know, totally, you know, fair. I don't think he ever made a bad line call. He was fearless, not only in tennis, but in his social life.
A lot of lunch dates in college. I know that.
Oh, God.
Wow.
But, you know, Mike just, he put his mind into something and he went after it. And he at times would be in a challenging situation, and I would see him kick it into overdrive mentally and just raise his game, you know, to very high levels. And I've not really witnessed it in his career, but I've witnessed it in interactions I've seen him have with other people, where I'm just sitting back and listening to him and saying, holy cow, he just, you know, he just took this conversation to a whole nother level. So, you know, I guess, Mike, you would be the person I respect.
Nice.
Thank you, Scott. I appreciate that very much. And I always had to work so hard because I didn't have that much talent. And then Ed Hess came along and he sort of, you know, led the way forward. So that's truly the case. I never felt like I had that much talent. So I always felt I had to make it up in my attitude and my grit a little bit.
Yeah.
Scott and Mike, you guys aren't going to get a room together now, are you?
I'd say the same thing about almost everyone on this call, of course. So, you know.
Let's go to Steven. Steven.
Yeah, that's really probably not fair to anybody in this call. I would say it's really, you know, Scott, I admire, Mike, I admire because they were kind of mentors. They were older guys when I joined the team and really had a lot of fun with and respected. Scott was, very steady. I never played Scott. I played Bucknell players. I was very proud of that. I went 12-1 in matches against my teammates over the years. I lost one time, and I lost to Murph one time in a match. And Murph had this ability to go into a zone, And I just
Yeah.
caught him on the wrong day. If I caught him on the right day, I may have had him. But if Murph went in his zone, he was in his zone. I don't think I touched a ball after losing a close first set. But anyways, no, I admired Murph's. I remember Murph having to talk to me when I was a freshman because I was down. I lost a match or something. I would take it personally, and Murph having a chat to me in the Bison about it and keep my head up, and it really motivated me. And I became captain my junior year when Murph and Scott. I don't even know if they voted me when they went out. And I don't know, but I look at it, a lot of their leadership qualities. I wanted to emulate. And big part of me too is with Ed Hess, Ed on the call, just to get emotional, but great friend, just a hell of a player, humble guy, just amazing, super guy. We kept in touch later on in life after Bucknell, and I got a lot of respect for Ed, just a top quality individual.
That's outstanding. Thanks so much, Stephen. Mr. Peter Ockrock.
Well, I mean, I think you get closest to your classmate. And I loved Eric Simpson and Bill Beneke were sort of a duplication of me. Eric Simpson was a madman. And for those of you who don't know it, I'll tell you a very funny story. He was at a match in Westchester and his jockstrap was bothering him. So he literally tore it off in the middle of the match and threw it to the fence and kept playing. Say no more. Bill Beneke, the doctor, was an automaton. And completely, a guy never spoke during a match, and he was virtually unemotional, clinical in his execution, and they were two of the closest friends. And I would say the same thing about Jim and I. Jim is Bill's younger brother. I, as Scott alluded to, was a little too fiery in my day and a highly emotional and psychotically competitive tennis player. And Jim was not. Jim was very even-keeled and was always there for me when I would get off the court and I was stupidly expecting perfection. And as we all know as tennis players, that's a really stupid standard. I always admired Murph and Scott for the very things that they were always in matches and always mentally much tougher than I. But Jim, helped me out. And it was a pleasure to finish our senior years as a doubles team. It was really, as a co-captain, as a reward, that's the person I admire the most. He improved every year. He steadily improved his game, and he just got better every year, and mentally and physically. Just have to admire it.
He worked so hard. I remember Jim Beneke. He was just always working it.
He was in the gym before it was at all popular.
Yep.
I mean, way before it was popular. Murph, we were not big people, right?
No.
He came into college weighing in the 140s, 150. Jim came in the same way. He left a much fitter person, because back then you weren't supposed to lift, right? That made you stiff.
That's right.
I haven't seen him since school. Have you seen him, Pete?
I did get to, when I was in law school, Jim was still in the area. He's out in San Diego now, and he was supposed to come in. We were going to play in the men's grass court doubles championships, but he didn't come east. So he's a technical writer for a technology company.
Okay.
Okay.
He's enjoying life. I've tried to coax him east for the men's 50 and over dubs, but I can't get him to come to Germantown. But who knows? Maybe next decade. We'll see.
Interesting. I played him in doubles in a league that I was in after college. Like I didn't even know. We talked afterwards, and he's like, "Oh, I played for Bucknell." It was kind of funny. So did get to meet him. It was cool.
Oh, that's neat.
That's really neat.
A really good guy. Really great admiration.
Great guy.
Right. Let's go to the baby of the group, Ed Hess.
Yeah, I hate to single somebody out because there's so many good guys from, when I was a freshman and Mike and Scott being seniors. Unfortunately, I only got to spend 1 year with them on the team. And Scott was just so calm, collected, cool, mild-mannered. But man, he was a good baseliner. You didn't want to extend the rally very long with Scott. And then Mike was, also just you could tell he was a leader from day one. And they both welcomed me, as a freshman, and weren't cocky at all, and they were just quality guys, great leaders. So it was a great kickoff to the career at Bucknell. But I got to spend 3 out of my 4 years with Cottrell, and I mean, just like you can see on this call, I mean, he's passionate, and he's He's just a great guy. Do anything for teammates. Him and Greenhoe had quite a social life, and they weren't. They didn't need to look out for any friends, but with being on the tennis team, they would do anything for you. And it's just quality guys. And Steve, I've always looked up to him. Life of the party, but great guy. Can do anything for you.
Buddy, feelings mutual.
Market.
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 That's outstanding. All right, so we'll go to my final question. I'm just halfway through my 5th year as the head coach at Bucknell. I know Peter's come to a bunch of our matches. Scott's actually practiced with the guys when we can drag him out get him off the golf course. We drag him out to practice on occasion. So I'm going to go around the room and see if you have any advice for me as the head coach of Bucknell going forward. So we're going to start with Mike Murphy again.
Well, I think one thing was obvious from all the people on this call is that they need to think about a way to connect and have heart, right, for what they are doing here, and purpose. And if you don't have that, you can work on all the technical skills and the physical, but that mindset, right, is so critical. And yet it's so different. Every person is motivated differently. So, Bruce, I would say, like Pete was saying, it's an individual sport, it's a team sport. Sometimes the focus is so much on the team, you may lose, tapping the individual. What really motivates them and what gets them up and gets them going. And, how could you actually ask more questions about them to find out what really is, their motivators? What makes them want to perform at their highest level? When they at their highest level, what does that do for them? And it's interesting when you ask some of those questions sometimes, and then ask them to kind of say, well, hey, do you mind me holding you toward that? And I'll work with you to help you achieve that, right? That you said you want to be. Look at Steve. He's always said, I always wanted to be, and Pete, I wanted to win a title. Steve said, I wanted to be always competitive and be the best I could be. Whatever that is for that person, maybe, establish a little bit of an understanding of their profile, their goals and aspirations. It might be actually on the court, but also sort of beyond that, something they want to overcome, break through. But sometimes that's lost in the shuffle of focusing on tennis, the game as well. So I don't know if that makes sense or not, but it seems like if you could tap the individual a little bit more, you might be able to really find what motivates all of them, individually. And then collectively, I think, have a better outcome.
No, makes perfect sense. Thanks, Mike. Scott.
I don't know. That's